Welcome to This Is What I Do, where we explore the work that is waiting to be done in our community. I'm your host, DJ Hilson, and today we are talking to Matt Schucker from Muskegon Brake. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
We are pleased you're here. We are the Rotary Club of Muskegon, part of Rotary International, a group of more than 1.4 million individuals from around the world whose goal is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here in Muskegon since 1916. One of our goals is improving the local economy. This vocational spotlight program assists students in making rewarding career choices. We hope they can remain in our community and improve life here for all of us. That's why we're here today. So Matt, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Thanks for having me, DJ. My name is Matt Schucker. I'm 30 years old. I grew up here in Muskegon. I went to Fruitport High School. I recently had I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and I'm married now. I'm a Master ASE Certified Technician at Muskegon Brake and Tire.
So I want to dive deeply into the Master Technician part because, one of the goals of this program is to really give students a glimpse, if you will, of what's out there. In particular, for students that may be thinking that auto mechanics is kind of an interest to them, and they want to explore. So what did it take to get to that master level?
It took a lot of work.
I bet.
I started out, I went to MCC, I did a 1-year certification program. I left there with just a couple certifications. There's 8 in total. And I just got to work. I decided that I wanted to get working, so I started out as a lube tech at Preferred. I worked there for a couple years before going to Muskegon Brake and Tire. And since then, I've been just learning, and I was able to find people that helped me learn and really teach me, and I just did most of my learning on the job. You do have to do quite a bit of book work outside of work to pass those tests, but I was able to do it. It just takes a little bit of work.
So I want to explore the mentorship part of this real quick. I know you've expressed that played an important role in getting to where you are today. How important and how helpful were those mentors to you?
Oh, it was very important. This business, it's forever changing. It's never the same thing, same day after another. They really need to be open to learning, be open to asking questions, and never feeling dumb about a question. You really have to just lean on other people for help. So
at what point in time in your I'll say your school life, did you decide, you know what, this is what I really enjoy and this is what I really want to do?
Pretty early. Me and my dad growing up always talked to cars. I not necessarily always went out and helped him work on cars because he liked to throw wrenches and get frustrated. So I never really worked on cars too much as a young age, but I've always been interested with them, how they work, how everything, comes together. So pretty early on, I was able, once I started using my hands and working on cars at school, it really took off and I really enjoyed it.
Did you have any opportunities during your high school years to start exploring this career? In other words, I know the CTC, I think, has some programs.
They do.
Were you able to jump into that?
I was not. Okay. So in high school, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life, as most high school teenagers are. Things change quickly when you graduate. But so I wasn't able to do the Voc. I was just going to school and trying to figure things out. But when I graduated, I really started to think and sit down and think about it, and I decided I really wanted to work on cars.
That's fantastic. So what about your job do you find to be the most interesting?
Every day's different, and it's never the same thing twice. You could be one day you're doing a brake job, the next day I'm tearing an engine apart. It's nice, keeps me on my toes. It's always something new.
Have you ever, as I think you've indicated, today's auto world is way different than it was, just a few decades ago.
Yep.
What about that has been challenging with the advent of computers and all the other little small pieces and parts that seem to make cars go these days?
Yes, it gets challenging. The electrical part is actually one of my favorite parts. It's it's very interesting on how all the computers work and they talk to each other, and it's how the car interacts because another sensor is telling it this, and it's very complex and it's very interesting once you dive into it. It takes a lot to get it, but once you get it, it's fun to learn.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us what you feel challenged by when doing your work. What's a challenging aspect of your job?
Being patient, I think, is a big challenge. Cars can be frustrating at times. And it's sometimes you got to take a step back, take a breath, and refocus, I would say. That can be challenging at times.
Now, is there any further educational requirements? In other words, I mean, are you going to be responsible for keeping up with technology and really engineering as it just continues to evolve?
Yes, so my AAC certifications, there's 8 of them, and they need to be recertified every 5 years. But as far as it goes, this industry, like I said, is always changing. I'm constantly still taking classes, at least a couple times a year. Auto Value, our big rep, provides those for us. Like I said, they're always coming out with something new that you need to learn. So
I guess the message to students is that this job not only is a challenge for your hands, but it's certainly still a challenge for your brain as well.
Yes, it is. Nowadays, it is getting very technical. People say it's like brain surgery when you have those things, all this electrical and wiring everywhere, and how it works, and it can be a challenge, but it is fun.
I'm not sure how because every time I open the hood to my car, I freak out because of, it just looks like it'd be a daunting puzzle.
That's a good way to put it. There's a young guy at work, I always tell him, it's just a puzzle. I don't know if you like puzzles. When I was a kid, I actually did like putting puzzles together, and cars are just a big puzzle. You gotta know, maybe start with the end pieces, but but it is fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So can you talk to us and maybe tell the students what you believe to be the most difficult part of getting the job you have now? Are there any challenges or barriers that students should be aware of in walking into this field?
Yes, so the biggest thing about this job, in my opinion, is you gotta ask questions. I know everybody coming out of high school wants to dig in and do all these things, but you gotta take a minute, you gotta ask questions. You can't be afraid to ask for help. Nobody knows everything about these vehicles. I definitely don't. I still ask questions to other technicians who may have a little more experience. So my biggest thing is you gotta learn to be okay with asking a question if you don't know what you're doing.
Excellent. So talk to us a little bit about how Muskegon Brake values its place in the community and what it gets done to show that.
I think it has great value. People trust us with their vehicles. When they come in here, we're expect to keep them on the road in a safe working vehicle. We do work on quite a few local businesses' maintenance vehicles, so there again, if those trucks go down, how are they going to be able to get out and help the community as well? So I think Muskegon Brake has a lot of trust in the community.
Excellent, excellent. So talk to us a little bit about the most difficult thing you encountered at work and how you dealt with it.
Oh boy.
An unruly customer maybe, or...
Well, I don't have to deal with the customers,
fair enough.
I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
But the most difficult thing about is all these car manufacturers, they all have their own language when it comes to a car. One car might call this sensor A, one other place might call it B. So really keeping on top of that, really studying, and we have a lot of websites we can go to that help us with that terminology, but that's sometimes can be very difficult to try and keep everything straight when it comes to different car manufacturers.
I can only imagine. So let's talk a little bit about some life skills, both in and out of work. Character is a big part of successful work. It involves respect, trust, and citizenship. How do you rely on any of these traits in your business?
Well, like I said, trust is a big one, especially when somebody's working on your car, People bring these, they don't necessarily see us back there, but we're taking wheels off their cars. They got to trust that we're going to put everything back so that they can get on about their business and way to their jobs. So I would say trust is a big one in this field.
I would tend to agree with you on that. Not being a mechanic or mechanically inclined myself, that I hope that when I push start, it starts,
Right.
and that when I go to drive, it drives, and the wheels stay on. So yes, I 100%. So if you were sitting in front of a group of students who had an interest in your line of work, what advice would you give to them as to the path, or the kind of the things they should start thinking about and doing in order to get to where you are?
Well, I would say everybody's path is different. If you worked on cars at a young age, that's great. If you enjoy it, I'd say stick with it. Like me, I never worked on cars at a young age, but I fell in love with it when I went to school. It is a difficult job. There's no doubt about it. There's frustrations, but if you enjoy it, then you really just got to try and push through those, especially those early years when you don't know as much. Those are very difficult years because you just feel like you don't know much and you feel like you're not helping or fixing cars the way you want to. But as you get, like I said, a little bit of patience and a little bit of experience, this job is quite fun.
What have you found to be one of the most challenging, and I don't want to put any manufacturers on the spot, but I'm going to, most challenging vehicle or series of vehicles to work on?
Nissans have been my big menace lately. The way their electrical is, it's very interesting, but it's very challenging. They just because one computer is acting up doesn't mean it's actually that computer. It could be 3 other computers down the series of lines of computers. For whatever reason, they work very different than other car manufacturers that I've ran into here.
Wow. So I'll flip that. And what's one of the more easier manufacturers that you've found?
Any domestic, the big 3, Chrysler, Ford, GM, they're all pretty similar. They all speak pretty much the same vocabulary. Then, I don't know, they just seem to be easier to work on.
Now, do you find satisfaction in working on your own car?
No, absolutely not. I tell my wife all the time to stop breaking her cars. I'm sick of fixing it. You do it for a living, and when you come home, you don't really want to work on them. I do have a project vehicle that I'm piecing together with my dad.
I was going to ask you about that, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. At the same time, though, I'd rather be playing with my 2-year-old, or out golfing on the weekends than doing more work in the garage.
So maybe I'm sure you run into this, because I run into this all the time. Once somebody finds out I'm a lawyer, all of a sudden they've got a question, about a cousin, or a friend of a friend, and they've got this legal question. How often do you get hey, my car's making this really weird rattling noise. What do you think it is?
Quite often, and that's okay. Honestly, I love answering those questions. Knowing that I have the knowledge, it feels good, knowing I can help somebody else or point somebody in the right direction. It's just getting me there to work on it, and not so much.
What kind of car are you restoring with your dad?
It's an old '88 Dodge Ram pickup truck I picked up from a friend, my old mentor, actually. I welded in a new floor to it, and we're piecing together some of the parts of the engine. So
fantastic. So how long do you think it's going to take before you roll that bad boy out?
I actually took it for its first drive last year. I may or may not have had plates on it. I won't say.
You got immunity, Matt. You got immunity. You're good.
But yep, I took it for a drive last year. And like I said, there's still a few things you got to check and tweak and before I'm ready to start driving it daily.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like our student audience to know about your career or the path or the different avenues or aspects of it that is available to them if they go down this road?
Just like I said, enjoy it. Enjoy your path. Everybody's path's different. Don't ever be discouraged about your path. Like I said, I didn't know anything about cars really when I first went to MCC. So I just keep going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. Really appreciate you being here and giving some words of advice and encouragement to the students that are going to be watching this video.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We thank Matt for sharing his story with us today, and we thank you for joining us. If you think this program might help someone else, please send them the link, and until next time, the Muskegon Rotary Club would like you to consider doing something good for your community.